everyone. This is Kathy Mason from MasonWorks Marketing here on Conscious Business Zone with my friend Steve Farrell. Hi, Steve. How are you today?
Yeah, I am great. Good to be with you. Thank you for inviting me to come in and be with your viewers today.
Oh, well, I'm so excited for everyone. I know you were on, I think 4 years ago, you were on when I first started my Conscious Business Zone. So it's been a while, and it's amazing what you guys have been doing at Humanities Team. And now God got you to write a book. So, wow. So you guys, I have a love affair with Steve Farrell. Don't tell his wife. Because I am just so excited to watch his dream come true and to see how centered in the light it is, and in love and in oneness. I got to meet Steve, I think 2010 or around then. And right away felt like part of the family with Humanities Team. And I spent a good 3 years spending a lot of volunteer time with Steve and the crew, because I really, really believe in what you're doing. So Steve, where do we want to start? Do you want to start with your new book, because it's right behind you?
Yeah, let's
So,
jump in there.
Okay, so why don't we start there? Because for people that don't know you, a lot of people still, I'm always surprised. I ask them if they know about Humanities Team, and even though it's huge, you have a huge following, people are still just discovering what you're doing. And it's remarkable, you guys. You got to go to humanitiesteam.org. I'll put it up on the screen. You've got to go there and sign up, because this is really the way to go to the world that we want to create, and create a new world of peace and love together. So back to you, Steve. I just had to put that infomercial in.
Thank you. So a word about Humanities Team here, and then I'll tell you about the book, is Humanities Team actually will be 20 years old this year.
Oh my God.
For people that aren't familiar with Humanities Team, we were founded in June 2003 in Wilsonville, Oregon. Neil Donald Walsh, the author of Conversations with God, and myself launched it there in Wilsonville, Oregon 20 years ago. We're, again, a 501c3 nonprofit. So that means our whole setup, our organization is quite different. No focus on top line growth, bottom line growth, shareholders. Only one focus, and that's to make conscious living, which is oneness, which is unity consciousness, which is the new spirituality. And actually, all this goes by many names, but to make it pervasive worldwide by 2040, and to just this whole existential crisis word that's surfacing more and more, boom, get rid of it, because we become conscious worldwide, and we create a sustainable and flourishing planet. So that's what Humanities Team is up to, and we have a streaming platform that is unique in the industry, the transformational education industry, a true streaming platform as well that you could check out, called Humanities Stream Plus. Okay, let me tell you a little bit about the book here, because this is what Kathy wanted me to go to first. The book is it's actually available tomorrow. It's just becoming available tomorrow on Amazon. I think Barnes and Noble, other bookstores will carry it. I think they're going to be carrying it overseas. It's a 50-year true story of me from age 12, growing up, all the way to the present time. And it's a pretty, I'll call it, unlikely story, because when I was 12 and in my formative years there, my parents were divorced. In the 6th grade, my parents were divorced. So I was a single mom, a working mom, raising then 7 kids in a rather small home, about a little over 1,300 square feet there in Northern Virginia, outside Washington, D.C. Wow. Not a lot of budget. So, and just as an example that I paid for my own braces in the 6th grade. I found, with my mother's help, an orthodontist that would take a payment plan of, it was $5 or $10 a month until I paid off the braces. So this is kind of where the book starts, and then goes to my old adventure in Silicon Valley, where I was absolutely in the right place at the right time. I started 2 companies there that were in digital communication. So this internet just really went big, and therefore our services that were for mostly middle-sized and large companies on the West Coast and on the East Coast went really big. We grew from 2 guys with used furniture in a very inexpensive South San Francisco executive suite to a $75 million company, over 175 employees there after about 10 years. And then inside that first company, we birthed a second company, and that one we took to 75 million in 2 years. Now, so I was in a Young Presidents Organization, which is a lot of the younger people at the center of wealth creation are in it. No different. My chapter, there were about 60 people. Gavin Newsom was in my chapter. Hamid Moghadam, who is the CEO of Prologis, which is the largest real estate equity trust in the world. Andy Cunningham, who was the brilliant marketer working alongside Steve Jobs to launch the Macintosh. They were 3 of the remarkable people in my chapter. There were others. Reed Hastings was in the chapter right next to mine, and he hadn't even started Netflix yet. He was out working with others to launch charter schools, is when I met him. So I was at the center of wealth creation there in Silicon Valley, and then I took the big detour. I sold everything. I left Silicon Valley. I moved my family to Boulder. I launched Humanity's Team with Neil Donald Walsh and set out on this conscious journey. And if you're watching this program, you're likely on the conscious journey also. So, and this, of course, is really what our conscious evolution is all about right now, our human evolution, which is where we're doing this whole Einstein thing, where we're elevating our consciousness, right, and understanding what science is now affirming, that we're sovereign to one body, that we are all a part of one a super organism here in the universe, which we can call universe or cosmos or God or the divine or life or love, or use any word we want. It doesn't matter. So the book is that true story of that 50-year journey. And I'll tell you, as you might imagine, I wiped out a lot during the 50 years. I learned a ton. And I lay out, just as I go through the book, I say, wow, this is what I learned here, and what maybe you could learn also, what you could get from the book. So it's really written for the reader, even though I'm the character that is on this adventure from beginning to end.
Well, but that's one of the things, anyone that gets to know you and gets to know the way that you do work, is you do everything in team. And that you're always you don't take the traditional leadership role. You get a lot of input from the field, whether it's the Barbara Marx Hubbard field of All That Is, or which we both were fans of hers, or the field of interaction and co-creativity that you get when you have lots of different input, which does take longer and has a different patience level than most traditional business. How do you see, for people that are listening, your journey is you make relationships that are lifetime relationships because you put the other person first. You really do. And how would you explain that? Because you do teach conscious leadership. You do teach a lot of this, but you are it. I can attest to that. That when you work with people, you consider every single comment and every single gift that each person brings in the mix. So could you talk about relationships, and because you just named off from your this person did this remarkable dream. I mean, how did you learn to do those kind of relationships?
Well, first, let me say thank you for
Oh, sure.
very generous, very kind of you,
It's
Kathy.
the truth.
And so let me start this way. We create masterclasses and other transformational education programs right on this streaming platform that I've shared up. So we work closely with the NDE community. Kathy, you work very closely with the NDE community.
Yes.
We also work with very talented mediums. Now, they almost all share the very same story when we get to our what they call continuation day, right? Our physical life ends, and then there is a life review. And the life review they all share goes kind of like this. It's not a recording. It's a real life experience where you're actually there in the moment with the key people that you lived your life with, and you're seeing yourself and feeling yourself and even hearing the thoughts of, because we're now in this pure love, this oneness world, right? We've transitioned to the non-physical realm. Even hear the thoughts of of the person that's there with you. And at these key moments in your life, you're experiencing that from the other person's perspective, what it was to be like, to be with you, working with you, your partner, your kids, your friends, etc. This is the life review, beginning to end. And then after the life review, what is said is that you get to, the question is asked, now as you go on in your eternal life, do you want to go in the same direction, or would you like to make some changes here based on what you've just seen in this life review? Okay, now we don't look at any flashy cars. We don't look at vacation homes. We don't look at mansions. We don't look at bank accounts. None of that is in the life review. So seemingly the only thing that is important, according to the NDE and medium community, is how loving were you?
Yeah.
Truthful, how sharing, how in service. I mean, that's it. That's what the life review is. And
Right.
when we talk about conscious living or conscious leadership, what I've come to understand is the word transactional will go away. There will be no such thing as transactional, where we're just doing something with somebody for some purpose to achieve some objective, but the person doesn't matter because it's transactional. It won't. There's no such thing as transactional when we're living consciously or working consciously. So all I'm doing is endeavoring to live into what my understanding is, and so that I can, one, enjoy life to its fullest, and two, when my life review does come, it can be a positive experience, as opposed to, which of course I went through. I tell the story in the book of my own conscious journey. I can promise you, at age 12 and 14 and 15 and 17, I was learning a lot. I was living in the old narrative. I wasn't always who I wanted to be. So, which is true, I think, for all of us on the conscious journey, right?
Well, I think it's amazing. Because I've heard your stories before. I heard how you were with Bill Spady when they started Heartlight Schools, and that you were instrumental in getting the funding for that, which were if for anyone that would like to know about that, you probably need to go to Dr. William Spady to find out the real details. But that movement was to bring this knowledge way back 20 years ago into schools, into mainstream use, where people really were honored for their competencies rather than fit into a box. And that's what I was saying, Steve, is that when we did the global humanities meetings in Portugal and in Greece, what I saw was every single person from every culture. Now, most of these people, English wasn't their first language, it was their second language, but their heart spoke. And we gathered all of that and used all of it. We didn't, everyone's concepts and part of it was like a recipe. Their additional part was another flavor into it. and everyone's recipe was honored. It was quite remarkable. And it was the slowest I've ever done a marketing plan before. It was fascinating. I learned so much with that.
Yeah, you played a key role. That's in the book too, as I mentioned when we were coming on.
Yeah,
As you mentioned, you were at the Greece meeting, at the Portugal meeting. The Greece meeting was defining for a humanities team. We had these people who had worked with us for years and years from the beginning, and this was then in 2010, and we made, with your assistance, we went through the strategic workshop and then pointed in this direction of, okay, let's now really get this thing going, tightly aligned and really moving. And this was where then a lot of the, I'll call it old timers that needed a paycheck, and we're able to monetize our work. So some of the older old timers kind of left at that point, and then there was a whole new team that really pushed forward, and here we are all these years later. And
yes,
what we're now, as we know, we're in the middle of this great shift, right? This whole new way of living on the planet. And humanities team is we're out, playing a role with we have an initiative called Changing Humanity's Future, which is to make conscious living pervasive worldwide by 2040. I was sharing earlier, and with real plans to do that.
Yes. Well, what the other thing I want people to know is when I do a marketing plan, a lot of times there's initiatives that are recommended. And in your plan, we did, I think there were 16 of them. And I said to you, if you do 4 of these, I'll be thrilled. And you guys did, I think, all 16, if not almost all 16 of them, which was amazing. The passion of the participants and your type of leadership that encourages and brings out the best in people was contributes to the movement being successful. And the movement is oneness. Just as you said, quantum physics is now finding the linear version of the explanation of what we feel as us that are sensitive. We felt it. I mean, palpable love connection, almost like soul tribe, but it doesn't stop with just your soul tribe. Everyone is included, right?
Yeah, exactly. And boy, if people aren't familiar with the science, you really owe it to yourself to become familiar with the science. We created in humanities team a program with Nassim Harriman and Greg Braden called Forbidden Science. Greg insisted that we call it forbidden science because it's science that now is affirmed by many, including through peer review, and it's not, they don't allow it in the classroom. So, and then there are other programs that are similar to that, technology, consciousness, and evolution that we created. But let me talk to the science here just for a moment for those that aren't following it. In October of last year, the Nobel Prize for Physics was awarded to 3 researchers for their research into entanglement. Now, if you look up entanglement in the dictionary, what it means is you've got 2 things that can be on completely different sides of the universe that have no physical connection that are affecting each other. This is one of the aspects or dimensions of what oneness is. It means that oneness means it's an energetic universe, a vibrational universe, and everything is actually affecting everything, right? We've heard this so many times in different classes we've taken, programs that we've gone through, books we've read, but now the science is really affirming it. Nassim Harriman, this year, through his Resonance Science Foundation, is bringing out his unified field theory, which we worked closely with him in the development of the Forbidden Science Masterclass and really looked inside of his research. And his research is accurate to 13 digits. Okay, and remember back to grade school. So that means 0.00000, 13 digits. It's accurate to 13 digits. And what it's saying is it's a whole set of equations that is looking at the universe. It's what Einstein attempted to do to his death or his transition, never quite did it because he didn't have the modern technologies and tools that Nassim Harriman has. But it says that everything from quantum scale, so protons and atoms, to cosmological objects, galaxies, and everything in between, physical and non-physical, is one. Is one. It's all affecting each other. And so Nassim Haramein, a scientist, what he likes to say is, he says, he'll turn to a camera and say, so you are sovereign to one body, the universe, the cosmos. And that means that the universe is inseparable from you, which is to say there's no universe without you. Right. So he's saying, stand tall, walk in pasture, go strong, because you are an energy, a vital energetic force in the universe. Which it's interesting, because you go to the spiritualists, the Deepak Chopra's or Neil Donald Walsh's, and they'll say basically the same thing, that we are all one, that we're all a part of spirit or of God. And of course, Conversations with God says that the word God and universe are interchangeable, right? This whole omnipresence, omniscience, omnipotence, that it's true. There's one presence, one wisdom across the universe, one power. And when we live consciously, and then we elevate to our highest priority, the one, the world around us, people and the planet and so on, and we get aligned, then we can tap into that full wisdom and that full power. And of course, some people have demonstrated that in the history of time.
Well, Nassim Haramein talks about each cell in our body having a black hole in it, and that's how we're all connected. And I think people made fun of that at first, but now that kind of is a way for our minds to construct the narrative of how it works. I mean, somehow the heart space is available to feel it, but then it's nice to have the interpretation that could maybe help you understand it. And the entanglement is quite amazing. I mean, the thing of this is we are so much more powerful than we know. And what this allows us to do is get out of the victimization and use that power for the good, to create the world that 7 generations from now, like the indigenous say, is going to survive and provide and be the playground that I think was intended. We kind of just got off kilter. So Steve, how do you see success? I mean, you've had you in your early life, early business life, you had success, and then you totally left all of that in Silicon Valley to you had an experience that caused you to leave that behind and work on the oneness theme. And you through your experience with Neil Donald Walsh and all of that. So how do you see success now? Because I'm seeing people being depressed. I'm seeing a lot of this. Well, the global consciousness is heavy right now. And so I'm doing whatever I can to lift it up. And I know you are too. But what do you see as what your definition that we would like to plant, like gardeners, for success?
Yes, and boy, we all have such an important role right now. We know of the challenges out in the world, right? And we know just in the teachings that you've read about that we chose to be here. Our soul chose to be here at this time. And what I understand, many more souls than could come wanted to be here at this time, where we're in the middle of this great shift. And every single person here has a role to play. Now, success. So this was part of this 50-year journey that I talk about in this book called A New Universal Dream. And success is I was off this unlikely story where I'm finding myself in the middle of wealth creation in Silicon Valley with these people that I referenced earlier. What I found was that their success was kind of a mirage, okay, where you want to get your company to 100 million, and then you do, and then it's like it's a mirage, because that oasis moves out on the horizon to 200 million. And then you get to 200 million and it moves to 400 million. And so it goes. So there's no there. So what can happen is it's sort of like winning the lottery and just working like crazy then to continue to win the lottery, keep that top line and bottom line growth going at the expense often of relationships closest to you, your partner, your kids, your coworkers, your best friends. You can't do it all. And where you're just chasing that oasis, that's that mirage on the horizon, it's very hard to experience true success. It's fleeting. It's a sugar high. It's at 200 million, it's a sugar hike, and then it goes to 400 million, and you're off chasing that. So I found that it wasn't the dream that I wanted a part of. So this is where I took my detour and where I sold everything, and I left Silicon Valley and I moved to Boulder, Colorado, and with these partners and colleagues of mine who were terrific, who I work with that are located all over the world. Now, what I've found success to be is it's the deliciousness of life. It's abundance in all of its characteristics. Yes, there's a financial component, but so many more. It's true prosperity. It's a loving environment in your home and out with workers. That's my Portuguese water dog. Sorry about that. Must be a delivery person there at the door. So success is where we're in this whole conscious living state where to me, it's like drift diving. If you ever have done snorkeling or scuba diving, and you've gone to these drift diving sites where you just put out your arms and it's just this nice, smooth flow. And it's not that there aren't problems that you have in the world. There still are problems, but you're coming now, instead of from the logic center of your mind, you're coming from the wisdom center of your soul. You're coming from this place where you're in connection with this frequency of the universe. And if that sounds abstract, I'm near a window and there's nature right outside my window. Where you remain in connection with nature, that is the frequency of the universe. Some say it's 432 hertz. I'm not sure whether that's true or not, but it's this loving connection. It's this very light connection. It's a connection that's like drift diving, where instead of where I compare it to my earlier life of the mental, emotional ups and down roller coaster. Today's a bad day. Today's a good day. I'm in retrograde today. We leave all that behind. So in this new definition of success, where we're living consciously, we're in this state of connection. And again, it's not that challenges don't come. It's just that we approach challenges very differently in a more holistic way, instead of some reductive way, where we just go and do this, which leads to some new problem, and then we go and do that. Success is not ethereal. Success is something you take to bed every night, that you wake up with in the morning, that is eternal, where we know that we have an eternal life, an everlasting life, that we have unlimited potential. As you were saying earlier, Kathy, we heal that whole victim thing. We all grew up with this narrative of these things. We're lucky sperm and we've one life to live, and boy, we're going to go to dust and bones. And we grew up that way, and that can put us and sometimes leave us for a whole lifetime in this place of victim and villain. And one of the things we learn in conscious living is there are no such things. Wayne Dyer, in his lifetime, he passed 8 years ago, right? In 2015. Yeah. He said there are no victims or villains, right? This wisdom has been around forever, that we're creators. There are no victims or villains. We own our lives. We are responsible, accountable individuals. And then when we live this way, where we live in this connected state and experience that loving presence in our family and coworkers and friends, etc., then we taste a success that we can carry with us always. It's not ethereal. It's not a sugar high.
I feel like a cheerleader in the background going, yes, yes, yes. Because that's the game. If there is a game, you can wake up every morning and reset. You can be a new person because it's your hologram. And what you're talking about is making everyone's vision, not everyone, but a big enough mass of us to have the vision of oneness, that it's a tipping point. Do you want to talk about that too? Because that used to be, I don't know if you still use that as a concept, but you have talked about the tipping point of all of this, of consciousness. Could you share that?
We do, yeah. So when we say make conscious living pervasive worldwide by 2040, that's a tipping point. So, and part of our strategy as a nonprofit is we have this streaming platform where we keep bringing the price down, and then we bring it down again, and then we offer this really low monthly price. Then we give it away to half of the subscribers, especially outside of the US, where even though it's an economical price, they can't afford it. They're on the conscious journey. Good. We give it away to those groups. And because education is always the key to social change. It's actually the biggest tool in our shed, education. So this Humanity Stream Plus platform that we created with these hundreds of programs. I mentioned Greg Braden and Nassim Harriman, but there's Bruce Lipton and Lynn McTaggart, and there's the Heart Math leaders, and there's Michael Beckwith and Neil Donald Walsh. There are hundreds of programs and faculty that contribute to this platform. We brought in 55 last year, new programs. We'll bring in that many this year. And our objective is to get this platform, this community in every home out in the world that wants it, because where price is not a factor. And that means translating it into the major languages. So, because if you go through even 2 or 3 of these programs, Soul's Calling with Michael Beckwith and Neil Donald Walsh, Forbidden Science with Nassim Harriman and Greg Braden. I'm not going to keep going. You can actually see on the screen this Humanity Stream Plus platform. But you go through just a couple of these programs, and I honestly don't know if you're really paying attention how you can go through the program, even 2, and not be really quite changed, evolved, elevated, in consciousness, elevated in your understanding of who we are and how we live in the world. And then, of course, after awareness comes the embodiment and experience and expression part, that's where the fruit is, right? What I'll call it the new spirituality, which I think 10 years from now will be the big thing we'll be talking about, because it's living into the fullness of this spirituality, whatever name we want to use. I'm calling it here the new spirituality, but where we understand there is no separation at all. Right. The divine, that she lives in you, the entirety of the universe is there. And where we then turn in service to this universe. And of course, we take care of our family. That doesn't change. But the fence posts move out. It's no longer just a little family. Now it's the whole of the earth. Let me just read you a quote from 75 years ago.
Okay.
Which speaks to the problem in a full way, and it speaks to then the solution. I'm going to just read this. This is an Albert Einstein quote. You maybe have heard it. A human being is a part of a whole called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts, and his feelings as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest us. Our task, therefore, must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. End quote. Okay, now that was 75 years ago. In our opinion, in Humanity's team, he nailed it in terms of putting his finger on the problem, this optical delusion that creates a prison for us. And then what we need to do is see it's an optical delusion, elevate, go through the work of create this awareness where we elevate our consciousness, see our oneness, that there are 8 billion faces here on the planet of which we are one. There's this whole energetic vibrational being of which we are one. And then, of course, we naturally come into service with the one, right? Because it's this simple thing of once we know, we see our connection with the world around us, then we create a responsibility, right? Where there's connection, there's always responsibility for mature people. And where there's responsibility, there's always positive action for mature people. Those one leads to the other. Well, here's our tipping point, connection, responsibility, positive action. You get to just, they say 4 to 8% of the world that starts living this way into the fullness of ultimate reality. This is what is so, right? We're just living now into ultimate reality instead of the optical delusion. And why would we want to live in an optical delusion, and then
Yes.
go through life review where we see us living in an optical delusion? And, why would we want to do that? Right. So this is our moment. Understand reality, live into the fullness of reality with others all over the world, experience the fruit of it, this new spirituality where it's like, oh my God, I'm offspring of the one, that the universe can't be without me, where you live into the fullness of that.
That's beautiful. And there's so many things that I'm again in the cheering section behind when you can't see me. One of the things the thing that I want people to understand is that you have collaborated and brought all of these new thought leaders into humanity's team, into the offering. It made the information accessible. How do we let people know it's safe to be seen now? Because a lot of past lives, people, if they have an inkling of that they were burned at the stake or shot for being the one that spoke up, the emperor has no clothes. And but what you've done is you brought all these people that are they're futurists, they're highly competent in their area of expertise, and they're sharing their, not only there are new heroes, really, if you want to look at that, because we really don't have heroes anymore, and we could use them. Which is what I'm looking forward to the book bringing people along in that way too, to say, hey, this is my story, your story. You can follow my story or you can build your own. But Steve, why do you feel that it's or for the audience, how that's safe for them to come out and share their genius?
Yeah, well, this is what is so delicious. This is the new spirituality. It's where we're living into it in its fullness, and we don't need to be worried anymore about. 20 years ago when we started Humanity's Team, I did what few friends I had left were pretty much out of here when I said I'm devoting my life to that we're all one and we're going to live into this oneness. Fortunately, things have changed. It's with the Nobel Prize for Physics, with Nassim Harameyn's work, with the Noetic Sciences work, with Bruce Lipton's work, with Greg Braden's work. I could go on. We go back to Plato, for God's sakes, 435 BC, and Hippocrates, who lived in the same time. And they said that there's no such thing as plural in consciousness. There's one consciousness. Okay. That was 2,500 years ago. So maybe it's time, we pay attention to what these notables have shared over the history of time. It's safe to come out now and to bring in the science that people are disbelieving. Again, Erwin Schrödinger, David Bohm, right? I won't try and mention all the scientists' names, but there are many of them that have laid the groundwork for what we're living into today, for what ultimate reality is, where we're living into it. And the fruit, again, the story I tell in my book, A New Universal Dream, which newuniversaldream.com, by the way, is where you can go to learn about it. And I'm giving away my Conscious Leadership Masterclass, which is a $300 masterclass, $299 when you buy the $19 book. So it's kind of a neat deal. But
cool.
You live into this new universal dream. This is where all of us can get to this destination. I'm not sure everybody will ever get a chance. I was at the center of wealth creation there in Silicon Valley on the private jets, at the private ski resorts, all of the things I got to do back in that day. That was, I was in that right place at the right time. I have chapters of my life like that. Not everybody will, but you can take it from me. That is not, you don't want to climb that ladder to that destination. It's hard to get there, but you don't want to get there anyway, because it's just a life full of mirages with oases always out on the horizon. But what we can get to is living into ultimate reality. Right. And being, speaking honestly about it, speaking from the heart about it, living from the wisdom center of our soul, being a loving person and a kind person. And who doesn't want to be around somebody like that?
Right.
I created the abundance to do what I'm doing. Is I brought this into business. Let me tell you, conscious business where you are a loving person like this, you're going to have employees, customers, vendors, everybody lining up at your door where you basically live consciously like this.
Well, I love it because 4 years ago when I started this show, no one was there was a magazine called Conscious Business. There was only a few you were using those terms, but there wasn't a lot of mainstream. And now it's like, you know how yoga took off and everyone uses it almost like a adjective or adverb or noun. Consciousness now is also being used. And I'm so glad about that because we are, again, the opportunity to do something right now with your genius and not be afraid to share your genius. This is the time to show up and play around with it. I mean, they say a lot of times your sole purpose is you can go back to what you did at 14 when no one was looking and all your all your needs were met, and that whatever you delighted in, the music or the art or the sport or whatever it was, that a lot of times that's the gift that you have because of the joy and the energy in it. That's what we need, as many people as want to play this game with us. That's what we need people to do now, is bring that joy of co-creation and joy of play. Really, it's really a different energy. Don't you agree?
Yeah, this was, again, the primary reason I wrote the book, actually, because I share the name Steve with Steve Jobs, but I'm not a Steve Jobs. You wouldn't pick up my book because you wanted to know about my life. I'm not well known like that. I wrote the book actually for the reader, exactly for the reason you described, Kathy, is that especially in the early stages where maybe we're not fully sharing our genius, where maybe we're not telling our full truth, maybe we're not living into fully this whole conscious living thing, that it's hard. It's very challenging. I shared I lost, most of my friends back in that day and coworkers and things. So I wrote the book to kind of tell my story of how I dealt with that, how I got through that, got to the other side, then grew to higher and higher levels, new plateaus, new places on this journey to conscious living, to new elevations. And every step of the way, I stop and share. Okay, this is kind of what I learned here. This was the challenge here. This was what I learned from it here. So my hope was that I could kind of assist people on the conscious journey, that maybe they could be at the midpoint of the journey, well into it, or they could be in one of those arduous spots, like where they're revealing to their partner, their family, their coworkers that they're living consciously and dealing with some of the rejection and other kinds of things that you'll experience during that stage.
Yes. So your book is kind of a roadmap for people, right? Where they get to see how to fulfill their destiny, as well as have the holistic view of life, rather than the go, like the Steve Jobs story. I mean, sort of, it's very sad where you focus totally on the business, that's a driver, and you lose all your connections with, and all your spiritual connections, basically, with your family and friends.
And here's the beauty about being on this journey is I've shared, trying to put into words, Kathy and I, what this new prosperity, this deliciousness in living, this abundance in its fullness, these things are. It's that and more. It's the opposite of this whole sacrifice. We've got to give everything up. We're going to go live in a cave. We're going to just barely get by. It is not those things. I promise you. This, even in sacred text, it says the terms it uses: give unto the kingdom. it says, and then all things are given unto you. Well, that is exactly what happens. That's exactly what we experience, where we see the oneness and we serve this oneness, make it our highest priority to be a loving person and service person in our homes, in our workplace, out in the world. What happens is the one, which I'll use the metaphor of the ocean. I'll use us as the metaphor of the faucet. We're a faucet off of the ocean. The ocean says there, so-and-so is wanting to really live into the fullness of supporting the full ocean. And then it just turns that faucet all the way on. The people, the resources, all of the things that you need to really get scale, to grow, to get reach, to get impact, to help change, move this world in positive directions. All of that happens. And including, the home that you have, and ways that you and your partner and your family are nurtured. All of those things happen. And then here's the beautiful thing, because right now I'm just contexting it around what's coming back to us individually. But as we know, as we look out in today's world, we're at the extreme weather, and with this war in the Ukraine that could become a World War III and other things, this term existential crisis is increasingly surfacing. Well, where we're living consciously like this, not only is all that fruit coming back to us, but we're actually healing what's out in the world. And where we get to this tipping point that Kathy and I were talking about, this 4 to 8%, this whole thing flips. People start feeling into all of humankind starts feeling into the beauty of what is here, the ultimate reality that is real. The old narratives are thrown out. These new cultural stories, these new narratives are emerging. We're sharing our genius. We're in service to the world around us. And then this whole beautiful new world emerges. And then can you imagine now going to you transition, okay? The term, sometimes we see our pine box, right? Which is the body that we leave behind. But so imagine now at the end of your life, you've experienced the fruit that I've just talked about, and you were part of the reason, the cause for this whole new way of living on the earth, because where the whole world is shifting, partly because of you, this shift that you've made in your life, this pivot, this whole elevation in consciousness, this way that you've lived into it. And so when you transition, you transition with a smile on your face, because one, of the beauty of what you've just lived, and two, our kids and our kids' kids and future generations have a beautiful planet to live on, yes, partly because of what you did during your life.
Yes, that's wonderful. And I do see that as a possibility. That's part of why I am attracted to Humanity's team and what you're doing. And I see that you're bringing in people that can reach the audience in all different ways. So if they're very left brain, they can go through the science and the literature. If they're religious, they can go through even with New Thought, Reverend Michael Beckwith and other religious leaders. And you're looking at people that walk the talk. That's what vibrationally you've created there's not very much infighting or name calling or any of that. It really is, okay, we're a team. How do we work as a team? And that's why I wanted just a second or two about conscious leadership again, because this is Conscious Business Zone. Most of the people a lot of the people that listen to this run small businesses where they are a servant leader and they take care of their employees and their customers before themselves. And so what I'd love for you to talk about as far as conscious leadership is how you kept your mindset. Because I've known you long enough. I mean, you were working the ridiculous hours, sometimes on the weekends. You were always following the thread of how to make this work for over 10 years that I know of, maybe, well, actually going on 15 probably, or something like that. But what could you talk about to help these people that are going through this roller coaster right now in the world about mindset and pursuing the righteous dreams that they have?
So conscious leadership and conscious business, they're really three, I'll call it big phases here. One is just the phase of coming into the awareness, educating ourselves to really understand what conscious living is. And I've talked about here during this program lots of different master classes, transformational education programs you could go through that will aid you in really seeing fully what conscious living is. That's step one, education. Step two then is the embodiment and expression of it. There's no fruit, there's no fun, there's no real value in just understanding something. The fruit, the whole reason we want to understand is to embody and express, to live into it, to experience the fruit. I've talked about that as the new spirituality is, a term that we could use. In this second phase where we're embodiment and express, we really come into the fullness of omnipresence, omniscience, omnipotence, this term that's thrown around, synchronicities, where synchronicities are coming in, the people that are coming to you, the resources that are coming to you, the things that are giving you more reach, more impact, all of these things, there's a real power that you're harnessing. That omniscience and omnipotence is coming to you in phase two. In phase three, the conscious business phase, this is where we're now building a culture, a conscious culture, where we're working with others like bees and ants, we often say. It's an interdependence. It's a very inspiring environment. It's an environment where we have a dream, the new universal dream, which we're sharing all over the world, and which is that we are living consciously with people all over the world, and where there's the beautiful relationships, and business now has gone in this conscious direction, and healthcare and education, etc. They all of these, what Barbara Marx Hubbard called sectors, move in this conscious direction. So in this conscious business phase, now with this culture that we build, we're working alongside, heart to heart, shoulder to shoulder, with other people in this way of interdependence, where again, there's inspiration, there's a dream, a goal that's held out, that we're moving toward every single day. Now, this masterclass that I created called Conscious Leadership, which you can read about it if you go to anewuniversaldream.com, which is the name of the book. And the reason you can read about it there is we want to get the book out in the world to kind of aid people on this on their own conscious journey, which is why we're giving, at least for a while now, we're going to give away my Conscious Leadership Masterclass. It gets into these three different dimensions to conscious living and to conscious business. You get that with, you just enter your receipt and your name, and then boom, we download the masterclass to you. And then you also, of course, get the book where you read about my journey and just see, where there are tools here that it might aid you during your own conscious journey. I'm going to guess that you'll see at least a few experiences, some tools, some things that might aid you during your own journey, just because there's so many things that have been a part of this 50-year experience, including the launching of Humanity's Team that's in there, and remarkable meetings like when we were with the Archbishop Desmond Tutu down in South Africa, or Nelson Mandela's family after he passed. There are lots of stories like that where Humanity's Team has gone out in the world to recognize spiritual leaders and to meet, as Kathy and I were sharing in Greece, where we create this whole new direction, partly with Kathy's assistance, that helped us strategically move in the direction that we have been going in really for the last 13 years, ever since that Greece Global Council meeting.
Well, I put up your site, a new universal dream site, so people can see, and I'll put that in the text so everyone has an easy to find link to see it. And this is a wonderful opportunity to not only get to learn what Steve went through and be inspired by it, but also to take that class and to be part of the solution. That's what I think in our heart of hearts, we all want to be part of the solution to what we see as all the systems breaking down. And this isn't when the 60s happened that anyone intended. And so there's a lot of sorrow and grief and sadness about what we've created, but there's still that we needed to have this to see what we really want. I think, I don't know. It's like the Dark Ages to now to the Renaissance. So what Steve's offering is a glimpse into a storyline that shows you when you follow your dream and you stay focused on it and you have the mindset of that you're doing your soul's mission, and you almost think you're magnetizing everything towards you, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. The universe is, we are one with the universe. And once we establish that clear direction, the universe has our back and in fact pushes us in the direction that we want to go. And so just once we set our sights on that dream, that goal, that vision of a healed world, get out of the way, because that faucet, when it go back to that metaphor of ocean and faucet, that faucet is turned all the way on, and it's a beautiful experience.
Right. Well, that's why I like to use the concept of the Renaissance, because in the Renaissance, again, it's almost like being that 14-year-old again, where someone's got your back with all your basic needs, and you get to play at life and express yourself. And as a piece of the fractal of one fractal, that's all it wants, is to learn and to grow and experience the goodness that's here and available, because it's learning. It's just like everything is in an expansive way. And when we're in fear, we're not in expansiveness. This opening up heart, opening up source, opening up access is all available. I hope people will not only read your book, but join Humanity's Team and enjoy the community that is there for them, and feel supported on this new chapter as we're going forward.
Yeah, come join us, humanitiesteam.org and newuniversaldream.com, and come check it out. I think you'll be glad you did.
Yes.
We're a nonprofit. We're here for you.
Right. And Humanity's Team has even won awards. But this is what you have to know, is there are other organizations that are all doing their part in another way. This is the Humanities Team work bridges a lot of gaps. It takes you, it isn't just going to the spiritual, although it is spiritual, but it has all the different, Barbara Marx Hubbard had 12 spheres. Humanities Team, when we did the plan, had 12 spheres, where we're getting the expertise from each sphere to give us their perspective on the road to go forward, the positive future that we want to create. So again, we're not victims, we're co-creators. Let's co-create what we really want, right?
Let's do it. We are in, this is our moment.
Yes. Well, I'm so grateful to have been a part of all this, and I'm cheering you in the background. We don't get to have lunches as much as we used to, but maybe we will coming forward, because I really see your platform and everything you're doing as the part of the hope and the example of what humanity can be going forward, and us learning to heal all of our programs and our wounds.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy. That and more. Yeah, and I appreciate you having me on your program and here with your viewers. And Godspeed to us all. And I hope with your viewers we get a chance to connect here somewhere in the near future.
Yes, I'm sure we will. And so, Steve, one more time, you want to share the best places for people to get a hold of you, so that we make sure that there's no question that they can do that?
You bet. So go to newuniversaldream.com to learn about the book and the masterclass that we're giving away with the book. And then you can go to humanitiesteam.org with a Y, humanitiesteam.org to learn about Humanities Team. And then that streaming platform, you can go to humanitystream.net. Humanity Stream. This is with a Y, not an IE. humanitystream.net to learn about the this whole streaming platform that's out globally.
Well, for people that are constant learners, there's no better place to be than to go through Humanities Team's website, join it, participate, experience, and grow, because this is we have the opportunity to create the new earth, right?
We do. We do, and we are.
Yes, we are.
We are.
Yes. Well, thank you and bless you, Steve. You know I love you dearly. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah.
Looking forward to being together again soon.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye. You guys please share.